Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In this week's video, we are going to explore time constraints and if it's good for creativity. I, like many of you, have a full-time job, and whilst I work in the music tech field, the amount of time that I have to make music can be a little bit limited. And rather than just not making any music at all, I wanted to explore just writing music in smaller blocks, the time that I have allocated or time that I have free, instead of just saying, no, I'll just see if I can write good music or get ideas out in that shorter period of time. And when I was doing the preparation for this video, I thought I'd do a dig around on the internet to see if I could find any papers or any articles written by different people on the subject. And pretty much everything that I read, well, I didn't read too much, but what I did read kind of boils down to these three things. A moderate amount of time constraint can be really good for creativity, as it can kind of drive you and keep you focused and on track. An excessive amount of time pressure can be a little bit of a negative, as you feel that pressure rather than being able to get into that flow state of creating music. And no time constraints can be a little bit too open, and you can end up just kind of not really coming out with anything at the end of the day. And while creativity is far from a science, I do agree with the things that I read to a certain level. One thing that it wasn't covered in any of the articles was just allowing yourself to have free playtime. Maybe learning a new or an old synth, maybe it's creating sounds, and maybe it's just sort of getting the preparation together. So when you do come in to write in maybe one of these reduced time blocks, or if you have an open day, you do have a bit more prepared, so you can pull from this to kind of make the sessions a little bit more fruitful. So to test the time constraint theory or the time constraints, I decided to do a little test on myself with absolutely no scientific backing or anything like that. I just thought it'd be fun to kind of do a writing challenge. I did have a sort of 2-day period where I did have a little bit more time free to create music. So I thought I would give myself 2-hour blocks to write on one idea. I'm going to do this over the course of 2 days, and I wanted to write somewhere in the ballpark of between 5 and 8 sketches. And by sketch, I mean I might have an A part, a B part, sort of something that I can go back to at a later date, look at it and go, yeah, I feel like there's something within that idea that I've been working on. And then you can kind of flesh it out a little bit more. And the one big thing is I wanted to have a break in between each of these little sessions, so then I don't just kind of, everything doesn't turn into a one big blur, or I give myself time to kind of reset, refresh, walk the dog, which you can't see out of shot, and also kind of come in with a new mindset for a new idea, rather than kind of just pulling presets and pulling samples and loops into a session and then kind of making a collage, rather than coming up with new ideas that I'm excited about. So this is going to be a little bit more bare bones, but if you look on the screen, we have a little stopwatch. So I'm going to start the first track. It is just after 1 o'clock. So I'm going to set it for 2 hours, and then I'll try and check in maybe halfway through, see how we're doing and whatnot, and show you what I've been up to. We're just going to try and take this off in 2-hour blocks with a little bit of break in between, because I've got the little man behind me, my dog, if you can see him, in his nice little sweater. So he'll want to go outside every now and then, and it'll be good to get a little break. So we're going to check in maybe in an hour, and then I'll show you what I've done at the end of the 2 hours. Got the stopwatch, got the time, let's crack on. So we got the window open. So we got through the first track. Still, obviously, haven't been writing a ton of music, so a little bit rough and still finding the groove, but I definitely like the time restraint. You're kind of not you don't tend to spend too much time on just any one detail. You don't really care about, is that the perfect kick? Is that the perfect snare? You're just kind of throwing ideas and seeing what sticks. And this is what we came up with. We have just a little 707 on a LinnDrum pattern, have a little chord progression, and just a little acid line here. So if I play what we got. So there you go. Nothing too crazy. Musically, it's pretty basic, but still just as again, like I said before, just finding the groove and just seeing what works and trying to get these ideas out a little bit quicker. I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to take the young man out for a little walk, and then I'm going to crack on with the next one. I think maybe the next one I'm going to start with a vocal and then see how I can develop around the vocal idea. I've got a bunch of them saved that I've been collecting over time, so maybe that will help dictate the track a little bit more. This one, I just kind of went into it, kind of had an idea a little bit, but when you're kind of just throwing ideas, it can be a little bit harder for myself at least. So next one, maybe we'll try a vocal to start with and then see how we go. So I feel like I'm starting to get into a bit of a groove, which is really good. I started with a vocal on this one, did just under 2 hours, like 2 hours 56 or something like that. But I feel like I'm starting to get the movement going and getting everything happening. This is what I made. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm kind of having a little bit more direction and kind of tailoring it to more tracks from my live set, I think is really good. So this is what I come up with, and yeah.
We came here to do something that had never been done before. Again, muscle. If you want to play something, give everything to it. I had no idea I was part.
So you get the idea there. I put in the vocal. It's one of my friends from a documentary he did. And I kind of wanted to have a bit more of a vibe like Bonobo, that sort of using real world instruments. So I went onto a couple of sample sites that free samples and grabbed some like weird instruments and stuff like that. And I feel like having those is a good way to kind of get that weirdness without having to kind of really dig in. I got the modular out and I had a bit of a go and I found myself just going down a rabbit hole. I find that it's good to just kind of sit aside and do like a modular session rather than try and shoehorn it into something like this. But I feel like it's coming along. First track, maybe not so much, but I'm liking this one a lot more. And let's see what the third track has to offer. Right, thanks. So it is the next day. Did 3 tracks yesterday. I forgot to do the review of the third track. kind of hit a bit of a snag. It's not a, it's a pretty good like loop, but it kind of left me thinking about different ideas and where I would take it after I'd sort of close the computer down and whatnot. But this is what we come up with, and yeah. So you get the idea there. I use this like little vocal part as the sort of main, you hear it like gating there. Use that as a start. Tuned it a little bit because it was a little bit out of tune with the key of the track. And then I just built most of my drums on Machine. I don't have the hardware for some reason. I had a newer one new a couple of years ago, and then they changed the firmware and it wasn't available to use on my computer anymore, which kind of sucks, but I still use the application because it's really easy to drag samples in, manipulate them and stuff like that. And then I don't have a bunch of audio loops so much. I can kind of tweak the velocities and everything like that to add a little bit more variation, the same as what I would if I was using like the Octatrack or not the Octatrack, the analog rhythm. But yeah, we are on day 2. We're going to do a couple more tracks and then see how it goes. Okay, so we're on the 4th track now. So that'll be 8 hours worth of writing. I kind of like this one. I started off with a vocoder idea, just my really bad vocals. But then added the vocoder, kind of started to go in that direction. But I found that when I had the full chords for the vocoder, it didn't really work. Instead of me kind of trying to work an idea that's not quite there, I just put it to the side and then kept working on some other bits and pieces to kind of get something going. And I found that having this like 2-hour like time limit, I don't tend to like just like trying to work an idea that's not working. I just move on to the next thing and kind of get it to happen. So here's what I've got. I got like this little vocal sample that I found, and here's my vocals over here. Again, I'm just using all plugins, so I'm not having to get up and patch things in and worry about audio not passing and all that sort of stuff. Having everything in here and just kind of really just trying to get ideas going and get things happening. Once I'm kind of happy with the general ideas, when I'll start to explore more sounds and then bring in some more hardware stuff. But I did pull out the microphone and we recorded some shakers and bits and pieces. Didn't end up using the shakers, but still super easy to get going. I already had the microphone out for the vocoder. But without me talking too much, let's have a listen to what I come up with.
I almost didn't recognize you.
What do you mean?
It's just your hair. It's really good.
Is that what you so desperately need to talk to me about?
No,
What is it then?
I was gonna say something good. Something that would solved all our problems and made everything all better, but you know what? I forgot what it was. Almost didn't recognize you.
So there you go. There's a little snippet. The things that I really like is we've got this like bouncing ball, just like a found sound, put it into the sampler and then put a loop on it and then automated the loop with an envelope. Same with this like little synth line. Got that really quick LFO to then slowing down, automating an LFO speed with another LFO. Just trying a couple of little cheeky things here and there to kind of add a bit more interest in the whole track and kind of develop the idea. Let's move on to the next one. I think I'm going to do 2 more and then we'll call it a day. So we are chugging along. I feel like this is good, and I said it in the other ones. It's really good just to not sweat the details, worry about them later, just get the ideas down. This is track 5. I've tried a couple of different vocals in here, ended up with one. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it, but the whole track is kind of built around this sort of evolving pad. I have it pretty dialed down with the filter at the start, but I've given the option, because it's not a sample and because it's not a loop, I can go back and automate the filter and open and closing it and stuff like that. And I can also take this MIDI that I've written and then send it to another synth, one of the outboard synths, and then develop the idea from there. So this is the idea that I put together.
But if I'm feeling them, that doesn't mean I'm doing bad. That doesn't mean I am bad. That doesn't mean take some action. Because yeah, nothing changes. You know, we'll sit around forever. That in order for something to change, there needs to be.
So you can see I put up the mixer view, so you can see that I've got next to no mixing going on. Sending to a couple of reverbs, got a little EQ on something every now and then these 2 plugins are ones that I have built into the template for the kick. But yeah, not worrying about the mix, not worrying about sort of any of the craziness when you can kind of really get bogged down, just looking for solid ideas. You can see all of these here, all this audio. This is from, I've got the, you can't see it, but you can kind of see it. I got the analog rhythm just in front of me. And I thought I would use this to kind of develop some of the drums along with some samples to kind of give it a slightly different flavor. But I think it works out pretty well. I'm really familiar with this drum machine, so I didn't get too bogged down with developing ideas and stuff like that. So yeah, it's 5 tracks. Let's move on to 1 more and see how we go from there. So there you have it. There are the musical ideas that I came up with. Like I said, I wrote 6, but the 6th was using a vocal that's, I didn't want to get copyright striked, but I'm really happy with the 6 that I come out with. Will I work on all of them? There was probably like 3 or 4 that I'm really excited about that I'll continue to work on and flesh out and see how they go. Some of the big things, some of the tips that I've come away with, in case you want to do like a writing challenge like this, is set mini deadlines. Like I had the 2-hour block, maybe you have a 90-minute block or a 3-hour block, just set that. So then you kind of prioritize that time and you don't find yourself drifting off and maybe looking at your phone or getting too buried on a synth or something like that. Kind of having that time constraint will keep you on task, and then hopefully you'll come out of that time period with a good chunk or a good idea that you can maybe use later on down the road. Again, with that, prioritizing the tasks, you could spend the whole time working on drums. I know in electronic music, drums are so heavily the backbone of the music. So what I tend to do is just started with a kick and then started writing the melodic elements around it. Not generally the way that I work, but doing this kind of gave me the freedom to kind of get good musical ideas, the same way that I heard that Martin Gore will write the songs for Depeche Mode starting on an acoustic guitar. Because if the song's good, when you start adding all the bells and whistles and everything like that, it's going to sound hopefully better. So by just having a kick drum as like a backbone for the beat and then writing the melodic elements, I found that was a good way that I got some good success, and then I could add some little bits of drums to it to kind of get a bit more of a groove. Another one was take breaks. The breaks were really necessary to kind of refresh, maybe get some food, go outside for a little bit, kind of reset and give your ears a bit of a break before you get back in for another session. And the last thing is to embrace the time constraint and the constraints you put on yourself. If you feel like you're feeling too much pressure, maybe expand the time out a little bit, or maybe just try and write a small piece, like you're just going to get one melodic idea out. If the constraints are too much, this can stifle your creativity, and then you might not get the desired outcome that you're after. So that's about it for this week. Hopefully you got something out of the video, and I encourage you to go and do a little writing challenge for yourself. If you search for writing challenge on Google, you'll see tons and tons and tons. And I intend to do a couple of these down the road, because having a little bit of a structure when it comes to writing music really helps me with the reduced amount of time that I have to work on music. I used to do music full time, and it was really easy to kind of get in and maybe go, I'm going to spend a day of sound design. Don't really have that luxury that much anymore, but that doesn't stop me from creating music and writing music and having fun while I'm doing it. With all that said, hopefully this has inspired you to create something. Until next time, see you later.